Now we want to talk about what the heck is the CNCF Platform Working Group. And I'm a member, so you get some answers from me. I have already, you all heard of CNCF, so I don't have to talk too much about that. That's good. And there's even contributors, so I can just relay any questions to you. That's also good. And why do I talk about it? Who am I? I'm Dominik. I'm a product manager for CNCF, responsible for the observability platform, so a bit of a platform in there. And yeah, also member of the CNCF Platform Working Group, which is open, so you all can join. And if you take one thing out of the session today, it's join. That would be great. Yeah, that's me. I'm working for CNCF. That's why I have the shirt. And yeah, we do smarter platform engineering. So I actually work with platforms like the whole day, and that is also why I can contribute in the discussions in upstream in the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, but everybody can contribute in that, so you don't have to work in that field, it's just helping. Cool, but we are here to talk about the Cloud Native Platform Working Group. So first thing is, what exactly is the Cloud Native Computing Foundation? That's the whole CNCF part. Good thing is you all already raised your hand, so you know that. It's this thing, that's the website, and I actually think they have a quite good vision, which is make cloud ubiquitous. Hard to say, but it actually makes sense. It's like, make cloud, be everywhere and all that, just generally be. And they also have like this better vision statement, I think, which says it's the open source vendor neutral, hub for cloud native computing, hosting projects like Kubernetes and Prometheus to make cloud native universal and sustainable. And I think that's a really nice vision in itself. It's like, it's the place for everything open source. It's vendor neutral, so there's a lot of vendors involved. So it's not just one vendor pushing things, even though there's some big players, right, pushing a lot of things. But it's, really focused on not being biased or something. Especially the Platform Working Group is very special in that. And I always say we're no kingmakers and all that. But, special focus on that. Everything around cloud native computing, and it's hosting projects like Kubernetes and Prometheus. I guess we don't have to talk too much about that, right? They have various projects that are donated to them or managed, by groups within there. To make cloud native ubiquitous, that word again. All right, and sustainable. So you might have heard of a thing here. That's the whole cloud native landscape. It's getting bigger and bigger year by year. That's so fun. And I mean, it's there's something missing. Sorry, there's something missing. Sorry. So that's the thing. That's all of the projects, and it's like also some sponsors, and the landscapes, like it's exploding. But you can already see there's a lot of very nice, very good projects starting up there with Helm. I mean, there's also that. But different projects that are managed within the head of the CNCF. And basically, they work on improving those projects and pushing it forward and making it more accessible to more people and generally better, it's really nice. So again, it's like this is the list of members here. Companies can be members, and as I said, individuals can also be contributors and all that. And serverless, nice, wasn't big topic. There's also, I think, somewhere AI and all that. And you might have heard of KubeCon. I guess, who has been to a KubeCon already? Oh, there's some people that are missing a great experience because it's also the Oktoberfest of cloud native stuff. It's not as big as we are developers, I think. It's the last one was it Amsterdam? No, Paris. Amsterdam was the one before last. It's an Oktoberfest. So basically, yeah, Paris, right? That's standing there. So basically, it's a huge conference, couple of days. Basically, it feels like a week. It generally has everything around cloud native. 12,000 people went to Paris. I think also around that went to Amsterdam the year before, so it's around that level. And yeah, the next one will be in London, if I got it right. London, yeah. And it's just a huge conference, also managed by the CNCF, and they basically are on stage, so you get to see the faces behind who's actually managing the CNCF. But again, it's a huge community. It's not just one organization. It's the people that are living in there. So there's more and more and more that you can have heard of in the context of Cloud Native Computing Foundation. Let's get to what exactly is then that thing that we want to talk about, because we're not here for the CNCF. We are here for a platform working group. And for that, we go one step back, because as I already said, it's like the CNCF in itself it has a governing board and all that. So there are some people that are actually working for the organization. But the big magic really happens in where people come together and where people share their experiences, share their knowledge, and work together to improve lives and improve cloud native and clouds and make it more sustainable and all of that. So that's generally organized in technical advisory groups, and there's different technical advisory groups. That's the big ones. I think that's all of them at this point. It's like app delivery, sustainability, runtime, observability, and security. And there you can already see what topics the CNCF addresses in those tags. And those technical advisory groups are basically open groups that you can join. They have regular meetings, they have Slack channels and all of that, and you can just go there and participate in the discussions. And then they have different initiatives that are playing out. Most of them are organized in working groups, and we want to look a bit deeper into cloud native app delivery, because that tag is basically the one where the working group platforms live. So looking at the page, again, you can also just go through the web page. You don't need me, but I'm fun, sorry. So basically going through that web page, you can see different working groups, and that's the initiatives, or mainly the bigger initiatives. There's also smaller ones within the tag that are being discussed and then being discussed in the Slack thread and then being discussed in GitHub issues and people talk. And then there's some good outcomes out of that at some point. So those working groups are definitely some initiatives that have a specific, not as broad scope, because if you look at app delivery, that can basically be whatever, a lot of areas. Isn't AI also part of the app delivery now? Or will... Yeah. Yeah. So I think in Paris, in the KubeCon in Paris, they founded also a working group for AI. And now the question is, where should that live, in what part of organization? So there is a bit of structure to it. There's technical leaders and all that have a bit more of an oversight on what's happening in different techs and how can they work together. And in different working groups, and how can they benefit from the synergies that you have when a lot of people are discussing in a lot of Slack channels about mainly the same topic, especially when it's so hyped like AI or like platforms in that sense. So, platform working group. What exactly is the platform working group? Well, it's about platforms, so it really has a discussion around what actually are platforms and why would you have one and all of this thing. And there's the interesting bit, they really work on some valuable achievements, but they have some limits to that valuable achievement. They have a specific scope in the working group platforms. For example, first one that kickstarted the working group really is like this outcome, the platforms white paper, which is basically just a complete white paper. Like, I don't want to show you the whole thing because it's quite a lot, but it's really precise and good content on if you want to start the whole platform journey on what exactly is a platform and get a broad definition, broad in the sense that, you know, it's really on a business level. And that's the special part within the platform working group. And also, if you remember, I'm not an engineer or anything, I'm a product manager. Why I love the platform working group, because it has a clear scope on, you know, what is the value of a platform? Why would you want a platform, and how can you drive that value home? It doesn't really specifically look at, you know, what's the tool, like we hear afterwards with Backstage and all. And Engin actually had a talk, it was a lightning talk on the Platform Con, which is a co-located event before the KubeCon. That sounds very complex. So it's an event around KubeCon, where he had a lightning talk about the kebab stack, which comes from an initiative called CNU, Cloud Native Operational Excellency or something. Perfect, perfect. So set up for you. So you learn more about CNU and what they do, but they say, like, you know, we're engineers, we need to have a map of what component can I use. And the working group platforms is more like, you know, why platforms? Why would you have that stack to begin with? And, you know, what defines all that things. So that's quite cool. Out of that came the next level, which is like, what's the next big value that you can add? There was again, long discussions. That's basically what the CNCF is in its core. It's like a lot of Slack threads that you'll miss half of, and then you ask in the other half that thing that was discussed in the other half. But that makes, you know, sense in a way. You get to the target. And the platform maturity model is just another outcome of all of those discussions and, you know, the refinements together, where we learned that it's really helpful if you have somewhat a map on where you stand with your platform maturity. So what even is your, you know, the definition of what is a good platform, what is a bad platform, and what makes a platform good and better in that way. And that's what this outcome is. If you haven't heard of it, there's like a ton of talks, and, you know, you can also find it pretty easily in the internet and on the page of the working group that I'll link later on. And basically, it's, you know, different dimensions of what's important for a platform. For example, the investment and how the investment of your organization into that platform is organized, you know, adoption interfaces, operations, measurements, all of that. And then there's different states of that, so different maturity levels, so to say, that you can define in that dimension. For example, investment, easy one, is like, you know, in the beginning, in the lowest maturity of your platform, usually you don't have a dedicated budget for it. It's just, you know, there's some engineers in their free time or like in their innovation time working on it, and or, you know, a team needs that component, so they provide that component in some way, or, you know, a documentation, which is the minimal form of a platform in that sense. So there's no real investment in that. Then at some level, you start to create a dedicated team that works on that and has a specific budget. And in some level, you see it as a product, which is a complete thing on its own. What does platform as a product mean? But, you know, they are not driven by features and all that. They are driven by, you know, investigating and finding value on their own. So they have more freedom on what they actually do with the money. And then at some point you have an enabled ecosystem, which is not just one team, it's like a lot, right? And you know, money pouring in from different routes. So there's different ways on how you can organize a platform and different maturity levels. And the interesting bit here is I've seen it in a lot of talks and a lot of organizations where they already use that, where they have a clear map of, this is where we are and this is where we want to be. And in that sense, you don't need to always have an enabled ecosystem or like have integrated services for your interfaces. Also, self-service solution might be enough for you. So you don't have to reach like the highest maturity at all times because that has some cost with it. And this whole maturity model gives you a good perspective on where you are and where you potentially want to be and what are good steps to come from that one part to the other. And I think that's a really, really nice outcome from all of those discussions. And the white paper, well, it's not really a white paper, it's just a model with more text that explains the different levels and the different dimensions, or the different maturity levels and the different dimensions in more detail. And yeah, it leads to so many good talks on KubeCon, here, whatever. We also discussed if I just do a talk on the maturity model. In the Platformers community, I did a podcast on the maturity model, and a lot of other people from the working group really talk a lot about the maturity model because it's really a valuable outcome that people can directly use. And that's what we are aiming for. We are aiming for creating content, creating ideas that others can then use to improve their cloud native journey. Something that I'm working on with a lot of awesome people now is the Platform as a Product initiative. That's why I said, as a product, it's his whole thing. And we were thinking about, that's how this whole process in those working groups works. So we just finished with the platform maturity model, did a lot of, pull requests against the documentation on it, and then got reviews in. And already while we got those reviews in for the maturity model and the leads were looking at different dimensions and leading those efforts, we already got like 20 new ideas on what we could do next. And one of those ideas was that we very easily play with that wording of like as a product, without really defining what exactly it means, but assuming a lot, people know what it means. So that was our idea afterwards, that we should go in a bit deeper, because especially that jump from maturity level 2 to maturity level 3 has a lot of that change from you have a project to you have a product. What that exactly means is a completely different story, right? And then we started up with discussions on, what do we do? How can we drive that home? How can we explain that in more detail? And one very interesting outcome out of that was that whoever said something like blog post or another white paper, and that's how we started with another white paper. Somebody just wrote down the white paper in his free time, because why not? And they posted it in, and then we had like 1 million comments on that, and then it was like, yeah, maybe we should start one step back, because there's a lot of assumptions in, and people understand product management in the space of cloud environment, which is not really a given, that we learned often. And there's so many things that people understand differently. So we started at 0, and we're completely, we think, because of the maturity model, because we wrote it in the maturity model, that the maturity level 3 and successful platforms always are organized like products. That's just something we assumed. But we have no proof of that. And so that's our experience and our gut feeling and all that. And the experience of people like me, that is working as a professional platform seller, basically. But we need more data to really back that. And the Platform as a Product initiative started then basically as a research initiative, where we started talking to people, getting an interview script together, so that we can get comparable, interview questions and answers to somewhat the same, the same questions. Comparable answers to the same questions, so that we can really have some valuable research out of it, and then we can say, hey, out of 10 big companies that have successful platforms in place, like 8 companies did it in this fashion, and that's why we know it is a successful pattern to get there. And again, it's not about technology or anything. It's really just about, how do you organize? How do you measure value? How do you measure success for your platform? Which I think is a really, really important topic when it comes to platform, because it's such an abstract thing, right? You can't really show your mom, hey, that's what I did. Always a bit harder. So we started with research, but then we also learned in discussions before the KubeCon, we had a cloud platform working group coffee, and then had discussions. And then we realized even in that research, we assumed a specific level of knowledge or a specific level of experience when it comes to vocabulary in the product field. So we had to go one step back, because that was also not everybody was on the same level. So we started to create content around what actually is product management, what is the base level of all of this, and how does product management map back into platforms. And then we created a blog post that I also co-wrote. So behind that QR code, here you can find the link to register to the research if you want to be interviewed because you have a successful or unsuccessful platform. That would be awesome. Or if you just want to participate and do an interview, you can also get the information here. Here you can find the content on the blog post that I co-wrote about how product management maps into platform engineering and all that. And this is the Slack, because again, Slack threads, that's how the whole machine works. We just discuss all of that there. And yeah, that's what we do the whole day. We sit around just slacking and writing content, talking to each other and learning from each other's experience and from each other's perspective, which is how the open source community, I think, thrives best if we can have open discussions and learn from each other. Cool. I promised that there's the link. You can just scan that or just search for CNCF Working Group Platform on Google or DuckDuckGo or Bing if you're wild. And basically, you can join us whenever. There's every Tuesday at 5 p.m. This time, like local Berlin time. We have a sync every 2 weeks where you can just also join and just listen in to what progress we make in the different initiatives that we are working on, be it the product research, or for example, we are also looking at a platform pattern that is, not specific tools, but like kinds of tools, right? Since Canoe has a very good overview of these are tools that a platform, can have, we are like, how can we do that mapping without any tools in them? Because we don't want to be kingmakers, whatever that means. But we don't want to promote individual tools. We just want to promote platforms and the idea of platforms and the value of platforms and so on. And yeah, join our discussions. It's really lovely there. That is the page where you can also find the documents like the white paper and the maturity model and the blog posts that are also a nice outcome. So, sorry, it was not the last one, but yeah. Join us. Sorry, something has to move. If I can't move, the slides have to move. Cool, any questions? Good, I answered them all in the talk. That's nice. Cool.
Maybe in adaptation part, starting at the state of where we are, etc. But the real challenge comes on the adaptation part.
You mean in the maturity model? Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, we can talk a bit about that. Sure. The adoption of the platform, right? That's the interesting part. I think it's really, from that list, it's one of the most interesting parts, because platform adoption basically is your success, right? If your platform gets adopted, you are successful. Especially when we talk about value, that's your main value metric. If people are not adopting your platform, they are working around it, and that's not good. And again, I think the biggest jump in that is always like between operational and scalable. Like the provisional is just like, it happened, I don't know how. And then the operational is like, we just started, and the scalable is like, we are like more mature and more secure in that. And the big difference is there, the extrinsic push and the intrinsic pull. So the adoption rate basically changes in its maturity when your app teams that are consumers of your platform are asking for your platform. Because especially in the beginning of a platform, well, it doesn't have to be like that, but a lot of platforms have that experience that they have to market their platform. And like at some points, like I worked in a company, I remember, where they had to force people to actually use their platform because nobody wanted to use their platform. And that's like extrinsic push, right? That's like forcing people, pushing the platform on them. And then, you know, there's this better maturity in it if you really have an adoption rate that's not enforced, but an adoption, or, you know, give your platform the room that they actually have to deliver the value for the internal customers, that they can decide if they use it or not. And that again shifts, because then, you know, product management, then the platform team has to really think about what drives people onto our platform and what can we sell them that they actually come here. While if you have an extrinsic push, is like, you know, I don't fucking care what they want. They have to use me anyways, right? And yeah, that's some of the differences in the adoption that you can see in the maturity model.
Do you think interfaces affect the adaptation rate? Like if it is self-service kind of, it may be more successful, or is there such a...
Yeah, I would say every dimension affects the other dimensions, right? In that sense as well, if there's a self-service solution, that's value for your customers. If you can just self-serve, you know, a component or a runtime in your platform, then you're more inclined to do it and to get one. Besides, if you have to, like, you know, have a custom process and you have to get a Jira ticket up and then wait for 3 months and then you already forgot about it, that, you know, is hard. You have to enforce that, you have to govern that if it's a process. So self-service will definitely help you with an adoption. But again, that's because the adoption rate, right, is a central success factor of your platform. Yeah. But easy, that's also, actually, that's all of the discussions that we also have in the Slack. There's somebody sparking a question in the Slack channel with, hey, you know, can you explain this part or that part? Or, hey, here I have a talk or a blog post about this topic. And then there's always like a nice thread underneath where people ask questions, and it's like a ping pong of ideas, which is always really great. We had this very nice discussion, just a new one, which was, there's a new blog post by a member of the working group, that, because we are like, blog posts, everybody can write a blog post, there's a name to it. So it's an opinion piece, right? It's not something the working group pushes actively. If it's a blog post, it's an opinion piece when there is a name. And there was this opinion piece that somebody said, you know, especially when it comes to the maturity of platforms, there's different levels of platforms. Some platforms are like platform engineering plus. If you do more than one capability, if you do self-service and all that. So if you have a bigger focus on the big picture, on, like, you know, not just seeing one capability, not just seeing one type of customer, then it's like platform engineering plus. And I mean, we at Giant Swarm are doing the same. We name it Smarter Platform Engineering, which is also like, it's, you know, it's something to have a bit of a differentiation to competition and all that, but it also waters down what that platform engineering even is, because it's such, especially platforms, is such a broad term, right? Everybody can use it. I use it for my observability platform, which is not a platform engineering, you know, cloud native platform in itself. It's a part of that platform, but it's just one capability. So a platform can be a capability and all that. But you see, the whole discussion is like, there's so many layers to it, and watering down by introducing new terminology like smarter platform engineering or platform engineering plus plus will confuse people even more. So we had this discussion on, should we even do that, or should we, you know, try to really focus on platform engineering as one word and then not overload it, and at the same time not just create 20 different variations of that to absolutely confuse everybody, which was a nice discussion. Yep, that's the things we do.
Sorry, one more.
Sure.
Who should be in the platform team? Like, is it DevOps engineers, SRE engineers? I don't know, maybe Kubernetes experts. How do you?
I mean, that's also an interesting question, and I think an open one that doesn't, an open question that doesn't really has a precise answer, right? It's not like, again, like this model, it's an open model. There's multiple perspectives and interpretations. It always depends on your organization. It can be, for example, if you have Backstage as your main entry point and your main part of the platform. So if the main part of your platform is the portal, then, you know, it's UI engineers, basically. It's front-end engineers that you want to have mostly in your platform team. I don't know, if it's just, you know, finance and security, you maybe want to have security and finance engineers in there. It really depends on your organizational context. But I think what is working best is always a good mix of different people with different backgrounds to get diverse perspectives into a platform team. Cool.
How does the maturity model help somebody like improve their operations? Because the last time I looked at it, that's just when it came out.
Yeah.
I wanted to improve some things in like my whole company's platform.
Yeah.
And I had hoped that there were like things, I don't know, for interfaces, for example, like blueprints or some case studies
Yeah.
to look at. Are there plans to
Yeah.
do something like that?
As I said, the platform research, the platform as a product research, for example, is one where we can then, you know, because if we're done with it, we know, you know, X amount of companies have had success and positive feedback for those patterns that they used. We just don't want to go out and just say, hey, I think those are the patterns. We actually have blog posts in the on the site that are like, here's what you have to do, like just do that and you're successful. But that's individual opinion pieces. We really want to drive the research and just say, hey, that's what we found out by asking X amount of companies that, you know, define their platform as successful, and that worked for them. And it's not just the product research group was just the first one to be founded, but for example, when it comes to architecture patterns and all that, there's different groups. The thing is just, you know, it's open source. Like everything in open source, it really lives from the contributions of people. That's why I'm here, and make some advertisement and, you know, join the fight, join the discussions. You know, you can also lead the discussions. For example, like the product platform as a product initiative, accidentally, I'm a lead in that initiative, and, you know, I'm not that long in the working group, but there's a lot of opportunities to bring yourself in and, you know, push discussions and outcomes forward. And I think that's really nice because, as you said, like, you know, this is a really good starting point, and it already helps a lot of people because it's it's a map, right? It's a map where you are and showing you what, like, you can learn where you are if you know how to read that map, and you can learn where you want to be. But you still have to, like, it's not Google Maps yet. It's like you have to go through the, like, I don't know if your dad's ever drove to Italy without any, like, GPS system, and then just had those huge ass cards, and then, wrote down on that map what way they have to drive, and then took the wrong turn anyways at every turn. So that's something you can do here as well, right? You can point down where are you, and then point down, where you want to be. But as you said, at this point, there's not that much details on how you get from here to how you get from there. It's like, it's that much text for each individual level that gives you some pointers, some directions, and then you can read up on that direction and find your own orientation. And the working group now is working on getting more meat into this, like, from here to there, you have to do those different pieces. Yes?
Actually, that's what I've also seen, for example, with Red Hat. Red Hat really managed to leverage this question and the confusion of people with OpenShift, for example.
Yeah.
They say, okay, big companies, they maybe don't have the time, the people, the opportunity to invest in this question, like, it depends, I don't know, it's not, they come like, hey, this is a solution which fits to 99% your needs, and there's different building blocks, delivery, observability, and so on. That's one thing, and we see also recently that the big free cloud provider also extends their cloud platform offering with capabilities. Google, for example, having a Git repository, AWS have a way for CI/CD, for Git submitting stuff. So they see the confusion at the part of the users which have the money. They're not behind startups and so on, because these people probably self-manage themselves or don't want any sophisticated platform. They're looking for the big fish, the large companies, and they come and like, hey, I offer you a all-inclusive feeling, and you don't need to think, and we have all the building parts. And most of the time, you work in the same company as I. People are happy because they are there to deliver value for their work, they're delivering stuff, and so they're not into all the sophisticated glue writing between one CNCF tool and the other one, because you did not mention this, the landscape, it's not an integration landscape. It's just tools. There's no promise they work with each other. But then there's a company like Red Hat, they take the CNCF projects, they make it enterprise ready. In German, we call it veredeln. They veredeln these projects and sell it for big money to big companies. So that's one thing.
I mean, a lot of consultancies I already have seen are basically creating their business model on top of getting people from here to there, and also use the platform maturity model for it, because it's a really nice reference for that, right? And very helpful with that. And I'm not judging there. I'm just saying it's a really great resource also for those people. Making people more cloud native is part of the vision at the end, right? So that's fitting. And yeah, as Engin said, like, if you're a startup, provisional might be absolutely good enough for you. If you're like 5 people, you don't need a participatory enabled ecosystem for your platform. That might be the wrong focus for you. So it's also depending, like, where do you want to go? And then there's a lot of offerings already to get you there. And a platform working group is also trying to create more content so that you can find that way on your own and don't have to pay a lot of money to consultancies, but you still can. We're not saying no. There's a lot of consultants that are helping in the platform working group, which is also helpful because they have experience and insights, right? Cool. Good. Thanks.